Good evening, everybody. I forgot my guitar, so I'm just gonna have to start this out like a cappella or something. I suppose I could like drop some beats. I don't know. Drop some beats.
I'm about to suck a boom.
Oh, probably not. How y'all doing? Sorry, I haven't done any streams in a while. Let me adjust the volume here. It looks like I'm blowing out here. Karen has her Good Gardener 2 years. 2 years you've been a member of this channel? Unbelievable. Hey, Rosa. Francis, Stiegelman Family Farm, Taco Promotions. Hi, mate. Hi, mate. It's nice to see you guys. Well, I've been very, very busy, so haven't had a lot of content going up because, you know, I'm preparing for the end of the world. So that kind of like takes time away from doing other stuff. So we got goats this week. Some of you may have seen that. Yep, we got goats. Now, you know, it's one of those things I don't necessarily want to get into too much. Animals on YouTube, because people are so crazy about animals. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have those animals. It's like an abuse to like have animals, you know, whatever. And I told you guys once, somebody told me, you can't begin to understand how disgusting it is to hear the sound of a chicken in the background of a video. So anyhow, you know, the crazy thing is we've raised animals. Humans have raised animals since the time of Cain and Abel. I mean, like right out of the garden, man, we started raising animals, and just this like this recent time period here, suddenly we're all supposed to subsist on soy and corn or something. And you know, I think that milk and meat and eggs are all great things. But anyhow, we went ahead and we got some. Oh, Karen, we'll miss you. Thank you for the super chat, though. I appreciate it. I like your new Hills Homestead design there. That's pretty snazzy. So we're looking, you know, I don't want to go through a really bad time period eating just turnips. So I've been trying to create alternative systems. So right now we have 100 chicks in a big tub in the dining room. We're not eating them yet. They're about 1/3. Hey, you got promoted, Lauren. We got about 1/3 of that batch is laying hens, or they will be laying eventually. They're just chicks right now. And then the last 70 or so are broilers. They are called red broilers, kind of like your Freedom Rangers or your Red Rangers or whatever. They're a red bird that's bred to be fat and delicious. So we are raising those up and working out systems to get the meat production and everything up. Yeah, nuggets. So, but we got goats this week. And I said I was not going to get goats again. Goats were such a pain. We had an acre in North Florida, and the goats were just a big... They could be a pain in the neck. But our problem was that we had them penned up in a very small space. We didn't have enough brush to bring to them. We didn't have enough food that we could grow for them. We only had an acre of space, and it was mostly in gardens and fruit trees, and we had a back area of about 1/5 of an acre that we put them in. But we had to buy in hay and alfalfa and that kind of stuff to keep them fed, and it was a constant chore. And they were also Nigerian dwarf goats, which were not particularly big. So they did not bear us enough milk for our family. So the goats that I got this time, one of them is a Saanen Nubian cross, and the other one is a full Nubian goat. So they both are milk varieties, they should bear at least a half a gallon to a gallon of milk each per day. So, how's the fence? It's in progress. We actually went to go look at the goats on Monday, and we just bought them. And I currently have them lashed to the side of the house. No, I'm just kidding. We have them inside of 4 cattle panels that are lashed together. The goats are not lashed anymore. All of you animal welfare people, I have just tied my goats to the van. I just dragged them down the road, and they open their mouths, and they just kind of clear the side as I try. No, we have 4 cattle panels, and they've got T-posts up, and then at the corners the cattle panels are tied together, and then I got a couple of stakes sticking into the ground, these big pieces of metal that are right into the ground, and it's keeping the fence from being picked up, because sometimes they could stick their horns and pull stuff up, and so far it's fine. These goats cost $125 each, which is a good deal for the goats. Yeah, goats will definitely trash the entire area. Now, you've seen in the background of my videos that our yard, we have some grassy areas, but we have a lot of brush areas. There are so many acres here that are just full of brush. It's mostly oaks and yaupon hollies and bays and magnolias and wild blueberries and sparkleberries and things like that. So we've got plenty of space for the goats. So that's that'll be my next video anyhow. But I'm thanks, Donna. Yeah, I went to the gas station yesterday. It was like $3.25. I said it's $3.25, and someone says, "Let's go, Brandon." I said it's $3.25. I was like, oh yeah, I get it. It's funny. So anyhow, yeah, that's what we're doing. But that kind of ties into today's topic, and I wanted to start out today's topic. Let's see. Actual content starts here. I don't have any music. Let's see. I wonder if I can, like... They sound the same. This one's got water in it, though. It's gonna be on the ground, maybe. Hey, that's not bad. Here we go. It's a time to sing a song that starts the rest of the stream. There we go. Yeah, I know, they'll work out how to escape. I had goats before. They won't beat me. They are smarter than sheep. So, I love weeds. I love weeds. So this last week... Wow, what is going on here? There we go. Look at my... Yeah, I didn't even put my hand that close. My hands are always torn up. Fireman hands. Okay, so, here we go. I wanted to read you this. This last week, I had an announcement. I'll drop this in the chat here. The announcement was that we published our first book as Good Books Publishing. Now I have 2 people working with me on Good Books Publishing. I have a production editor, and I have a proofreader / all-around amazing guy. So I've got 2 people working with me, and then I have my sister working with me sometimes. So there's actually, it's not just me. You know, usually I'm like, we're working on this, which actually means I'm working on it. But in this case, we are working on, this is an honest-to-goodness publishing house, even though we're just getting off of the ground. We started by publishing my books, republishing my books. So this just came in the mail, for example. This is the brand new edition of Turned Earth, a Jack Broccoli novel, which was proofread again because there was a few mistakes in the first one. And it has a nice glossy cover. But as you can see, it is now a Good Books release. So, Turned Earth, a Jack Broccoli novel, is now published under my own publishing house, like Start a Home-Based Plant Nursery. And all of the good guides have now been republished. But we spent the most of this year switching my books over to Good Books Publishing, getting them laid out properly again, creating new files, proofreading, just going through and fixing errors that we had found in the first editions and getting them all back in print. But this week we announced Winning the War on Weeds. Winning the War on Weeds is our first release by somebody that is not me. I had to get all of my stuff fixed and transferred because, let's face it, without book income, I would be broke. That's my main gig, is writing books, and I was a writer before I was really a serious YouTuber. So the Good Books sign has not been hung up yet. I have it, but I have to hang it along with my YouTube silver play button and stuff. I pretty much got I've just been trying to get all of the books and stuff out, and this is not the way that a nice studio is supposed to look. It's a big junky mess with everything dumped in here. So we put out Winning the War on Weeds by John Moody. It's a really good book. It is a really good book, especially for people that practice no-till, deep mulch type gardening. John has a homestead, 30-something acres, I believe, up in Kentucky that he works on with his 7 children. I believe it's 7, it may be 6. I haven't met the entire family yet. And he has written, they do elderberry farming, and they raise some livestock, and they have they do a lot of food production, and it's a family business. And this book, when he sent me the rough edition of it some years ago, I was like, this book has to get in print. This is so good. And so it got in print with the publisher, but it ended up not doing particularly well with that publisher, and I was able to get the rights, and we re-edited it, cleaned it up, made some changes, and now it has been re-released with Good Books Publishing, and it should be a bestseller. If it's not a bestseller, it's not the book's fault. It's just that the algorithm gods did not smile on us. But so far, it's doing well, particularly thanks to you guys picking up copies. So I sent out the announcement for Winning the War on Weeds, a no-till gardening handbook, this last week on Friday. Very excited about it. And I wrote, I'm very pleased to announce that Good Books Publishing has released the 2nd edition of Winning the War on Weeds by John Moody. I got to know John some years ago and am quite impressed with his knowledge of soil, animals, farming, and raising a family on the land. His practical no-till approach to gardening takes no prisoners when it comes to weed control. I'm thrilled to be able to publish this excellent handbook in paperback. In Winning the War on Weeds, you'll learn all about deep mulching, occultation, managing fence lines, creating neutral zones that exclude weeds, solarization, using animals for weed control, and a lot more, and all without picking up a hoe. Whether you are a backyard gardener or a farmer, you will benefit from John's practical knowledge and deep understanding of how weeds work, and how to keep them from being a constant and never-ending homesteading chore. I'm thrilled that we get to publish this very useful book. It is an excellent addition to any gardener's bookshelf. You can get it here in paperback. Thank you for the support. So I wrote this. That was my announcement. And thank you very much, Carla. Carla says, weeds, one of my favorite topics. Alas, I cannot stay in chat. We will miss you, Carla. Appointments. Oh, that's sad. Thank you for the congratulations. Have a great night. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. So, this is what I wrote. And then I got a response from somebody on the newsletter, which made me laugh. The response was, what? You are David the Good, not David the Hate. You ought to love your weeds and never play into hate mentality. Hate is bad for your garden, bad for your life, and everyone you meet or influence. Love weeds into compost and a new reality or incarnation. Turn them into tinctures. Turn weeds into anything but hate. They have a place. Hate should never. No, the Dalai Lama says to plant a peace garden. Ah, you know what? The Dalai Lama has written to me before. So I know the Dalai Lama. I have personally interacted with the Dalai Lama on this channel and sung about it. The Dalai Lama says to plant a peace garden, that way you can talk about it, and peace. Have a peace place to go. His statement has inspired peace gardens all over the world. Maybe do an article on making a peace garden. We have one and love it. We have a place for love and peace in our life. Compost the hate. Well, I didn't say that I hated weeds. I mean, there's plenty of things that I do hate. I love hate. I have tons of hate. Hate is like this burning fuel inside of me. I love hate. It's great. Hate is a family value. There's plenty of stuff you should hate. I hate going to the DMV, okay? There, I got that on my system. I am a hateful person. I hate having to keep an appointment when I would rather be working in the garden. I hate when I go to bed at night and then sometimes you get that little bit of like acid in the back of your throat and it wakes you up. You know, have you ever had that happen? You're like, gosh, why did I think it was a good idea to dip Doritos in tomato soup and then chase it with a vodka martini? I hate this. But I'm so tired I don't want to get out of bed and take an antacid. I hate this feeling. It's hate. Bad. The Dalai Lama never dealt with nutsedge. Okay, so make love to weeds, not war. Thanks, love cat. So anyhow, hey William, you got the 2-year milestone. I see you got the Good Gardener logo next to your name. Good work, man. So anyhow, yeah, lots of hate, tons of hate. I love hate, but if I love hate, that's a kind of love. Anyhow, so don't play into the hate mentality. Now, I like the idea of a peace garden. I would love a garden that I could just till into submission again and again and again, like the peace that happened in Europe after each World War. You know, everything's crushed and destroyed and no, I don't think that's the way it works. Anyhow, when the Dalai Lama wrote me, it was not about peace gardens. I don't know what the Dalai Lama wrote to this reader. I like the idea. The garden is a peaceful place for me. I'm just joking. Tilling is a peaceful place. The Dalai Lama, when the Dalai Lama wrote me, it was about growing tropical fruits in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. It was about having a greenhouse made with sliding glass doors. That's what we talked about. It was not like a peace garden. I guess it was a peaceful. I mean, it's a great idea. Mangoes in a greenhouse, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Yeah. So, I hate the Z word, Diana. It's better if you don't write it out. It's as a family channel. But anyhow, I don't hate weeds. I love weeds. I don't love all weeds. I don't love Kogan grass. I don't love nutsedge. I don't love the bitter type of smilax. I like the sweet smilax, but the smilax that's growing here, it's got these little shoots that aren't particularly good to eat, and they're very bitter, and they tear you all up. I get scratched all up when I'm trying to work. I don't like that. I don't like poison ivy. However, a lot of weeds I do love. I like lamb's quarters and dock. I like chickweed. I like amaranth, so long as it's not spiny pigweed. I like sumac trees that pop up here and there. Yeah, I like those weeds. I don't like stickers. There's a sedge that makes a bunch of stickers. I don't like those. It gets stuck in your feet. That's bad. I like wild blackberries. A lot of people hate blackberries. I like wild blackberries. I like the fruit. I think it's cool. I like the wild roses. But there are a lot of benefits to weeds. And one of the things I really like about weeds is that they are food for my animals. Now that I have animals, again, the chickens and the goats love the weeds. So I have taken these 4 cattle panels, slashed them together, and I'm using T-posts to hold this enclosure up. And I'm moving it through the brush. This square. They move through the brush, and they are eating everything in it. There's goldenrod and smilax and beauty berries and some oak and some sumac, all kinds of random stuff. And they're just chewing it to bits. And that's great because they are turning weeds into goat. And later, when they are old enough to breed and give us milk, they will be turning weeds into milk, and that is a really great trade. The weeds are a gift. The brush is a gift. The weeds that cover the ground keep the sand from blowing around, help the soil humus levels to improve. Some weeds fix nitrogen. Some of them are phosphorus accumulators. They fix bad soil. Weeds fill in empty ground. I love that. It's a great design. Weeds are soil band-aids, I wrote once. I like weeds. I love weeds. The chickens love to eat weeds. I will take the weeds that we pull. When I go in the grocery row gardens, I mostly have the ground covered with different ground covers and things. But some weeds pop up here and there in between. And I yank those weeds out and I throw them into the pathway. And then we rake the pathway and we have this great big bundle of sandy weeds. And we fill up the wheelbarrow full of it and we throw it to the chickens. Throw it to the chickens. The chickens chew their way through it. And it's fantastic. They turn the weeds into eggs. It's really good. It's great. The weeds are useful. Now, the further away from nature you are, like if you're trying to maintain a lawn, the weeds can really be a problem. You're trying to keep one species. You're trying to maintain a monoculture. A monoculture attracts disruption. It's not really a natural system. So, you're trying to grow one thing, grass. Well, what happens? Well, you get thistles and dandelions and wild violets and sedges and oxalis. You know, all these little things that start popping up in there and trying to mess up your lawn. What they're trying to do is make a polyculture, not a monoculture. If you want a great lawn, put some sheep on it. Sheep make a very nice lawn. Goats are not particularly good at making lawns. Cows are a little big for a lawn. But when I was in Grenada, one of our neighbors, his name is Uncle Clem, he was in his 80s. And he said, "David, how you like my lawnmowers? You see my lawnmowers?" He had like 15 sheep, beautiful sheep. They were a tan sheep with black-bellied tan sheep. Not a real long wool. Very, very pretty animals, not particularly big. Barrel-shaped, short sheep. And they kept his lawn cropped, but not torn out of the ground. And manured, but not overly manured. And it looked beautiful. Like, his yard was like a golf course. And he was in the city, because you can do that sort of thing in the city there. Nobody really cares. He had a fenced yard with sheep on it. And then he had a bit of pasture next door that he would let them over on sometimes. And he had an enclosure where they would go at night. And he would shut them in at night. And he would let them out again in the morning. And because he shut them in at night into this little enclosure, they were safe from dogs and stuff, just in case. And they also left a lot of manure in there. And then he would take the manure and scrape it out of this enclosure area. He would muck it out and make a big pile next to it to compost. And so he used to give me the manure for my gardens. I could go over there and get a bag of manure every couple of weeks and spread it on the gardens. And he had plenty for his gardens and plenty to share. Really cool. But that's, you know, they're not the weed clearers necessarily. Christina says, I fought the lone and the long one. That's good. That's good. You can't have any hoofed animals in American cities because America has been too far removed from hunger for too long and has gotten stupid. The restrictions, I mean, you can have dogs in your yard barking half the night. You can have a cat jumping over the fence, etc. But food animals, it's like we're trying to separate ourselves from our agrarian past. Food animals are beyond the pale. You can't have pet goats, you know, usually. Or a pig in the back corner of your yard. In Grenada, man, people had pigs in their backyards. They had chickens that would wander the sides of the road. They would tie a cow up next to their front porch. Pretty crazy. Goats. All over the place. And they were closer to an agrarian past. Now, in the cities and stuff, they didn't, you know, people that were upper class did not keep animals in their yard, I guess. But a lot of people did. Most people did. I don't like all that nonsense. I don't like all the nonsense of, look it, we have moved beyond. We can outsource our food production to somebody else. I don't think that's a good idea. I think part of the problem is that we've outsourced almost everything to somebody else. To the point where we spend money on people to come and spray the lawn to kill weeds so the lawn remains a monoculture, and we put chemical fertilizers on it to make it lush and green so we can impress people that we don't care about. We outsourced our manufacturing. When I was a kid, you could buy nails. It wasn't that long ago. You could buy nails that wouldn't bend all over the place when you hammered them into something. I bought a bunch of nails for a project about 10 years ago or so, and all the nails would bend, and I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here? Bought another box of nails. Same problem. Stuff is junk. And it's not made from us. You know, it's not made by us anymore. And another problem is it's not just, is it manufactured in the United States? Because it's cool, you know, to support your own country and buy stuff that's made in the United States. But if your food is being grown 10 states away, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles. You know, pineapples might be from the United States. But if you live in South Dakota, you're getting your pineapples from Hawaii. Well, it's, you know, I guess better than getting it from Central America. At least you're supporting somebody that's technically inside of the United States political system. But it's not local. It's not that close. Some things obviously you couldn't grow in South Dakota. You couldn't grow your pineapples in South Dakota unless you lost those supply lines and you decided to set up a big operation inside of greenhouses or something. But everything is so busted. Thank you for joining Green Christendom. Welcome. You've got all the emojis already. It's fantastic. The game of golf is the root problem. That's why all our stuff is sitting on the coast, Nancy says. Yeah, I agree. I don't like... I don't like that we have to go so far away to get everything. If I can, I will buy stuff locally. If I can, I will get things that are produced locally. But try to buy furniture that's made locally. I bought my chicks this time from a hatchery in the state of Alabama. But still, the hatchery was not in the town of Atmore. It was not in Walnut Hill, Florida, which is not that far from me, or Pensacola, or Mobile, which aren't that far from me. It was produced way up in the north of the state, 5 hours drive. Now it's still an Alabama company, and I like that. That's why I bought from them. But I looked for a hatchery that was local. I couldn't find a local hatchery. Well, how hard would it be to have a local hatchery to hatch chickens locally? I don't think it would be very hard. But I was looking for a local dairy. It's an interesting question, right? Looking for anybody that's raising dairy animals because I want to have dairy for my kids. And I'm like, you know, it's great that I can grow turnips and cassava and onions and some herbs and potatoes and stuff like that. That's all good. But man, if the supply lines get worse, I would like to have cheese and milk. I would like high quality animal products, animal fats, stuff that's good for us. And I don't want to be counting on somebody that's 500 miles away. There have been days when we've gone to the local grocery store and there are no gallons of milk. There's no milk. It's gone. We go back a couple days later, still gone. When's the truck coming? Oh, it's coming. The truck arrives, it gets stocked up again. It's never been that long, but it's made me think. It's made me think a lot. How tenuous is this supply? So when I wanted to find some dairy animals, I said, you know, it would be cool to go find somebody that's raising milk cows or milk goats and producing milk. Now I know that the regulations and everything are absolutely horrible. You know, like raw milk, selling raw milk is probably a felony or something. It's crazy. It's against the law here. And all the small dairies basically got killed by big dairies. Or almost all of them. It's hard work. And it is the most ridiculously over-regulated industry. So I'm thinking, okay, I got some grass. I've got some brush. I want to go see what somebody is doing. So I went into the feed store and I asked, is there anybody around here that's raising cows? Dairy cows? Or goats? Is there a dairy around here? And the lady said, oh, not anymore. You know, there used to be. There aren't any local dairies anymore. They're all gone. They all shut down. And I said, mark my words. There will be local dairies again. It'll happen again. They'll be back. They couldn't direct me to anybody, but I told them, I said, there'll be dairies again. Just because nobody's doing it now doesn't mean nobody's going to do it next year or the year after or the year after. Because what the pandemic has shown us is that we have a very fragile system. The more centralized the system has become, the more fragile it's become. These ideas of this perfect Star Trek world where everything is all super interconnected, and these things can shift very quickly. Very, very quickly. There are black swan events that change everything. Look at how the pandemic shut down travel. Wow. We were almost not able to move back to the United States. We had to get a charter flight out. Yeah, a lot has happened in 100 years. You know, regular there was not regular air transportation 100 years ago. There may not be next year. We don't know. Things change quickly. And I think the safest thing, God created us as individuals, but he created us individuals to make families and to be in families. We're not supposed to be all by ourselves. The basic unit of society is the family, which is why the family is constantly under attack. Try to divide up, try to make the men fight the women, and try to make the children fight the parents, try to split grandparents, try to redefine what a family is. But the family, husband and wife and their kids, that is the basic unit of society. And when you get multiple families together in a community, man, you've got this interweaving that's going on. Communities that stick together, stay together for long periods of time. In this neighborhood here, there are families. There is a cemetery down not that far from me. And there are generations and generations of family buried there back to the early 1800s. But it goes back further than that. Family that we rent from, they date back to the early 1700s in this area. That's incredible, right? People with a long-term connection to an area, to the land, to their family, generation after generation after generation. They can go back to things that we don't have now, or we don't understand now. When something is way overbalanced in a certain direction, it can tip over so quickly we don't know what's going on. The families around here have some deep roots and deep connections. And I'll tell you what, resources come out of the woodwork that you didn't know were there when a catastrophe happens, when something gets difficult. You may not get along great with your neighbor all the time, etc., in good times. But I saw, after 2 hurricanes here, neighbors dragging trees out, neighbors pulling trees off of houses and chainsawing, and pulling people out of ditches and visiting and cooking meat and bringing it door to door. There's no power, and suddenly we're all talking to each other. And things like weeds right now may be something that that we hate. I hate the weeds or whatever. But it becomes much less important when you start relocalizing and refocusing on how does this food production work. If I got a bunch of brush in my yard, that's actually an asset if I want to raise goats. If I got a weedy front yard with dandelions and thistles and stuff like that, and I run a chicken tractor over it, those chickens are going to do much better than if I was running them over a chem lawn. That's a good thing, man. Those weeds are going to be useful. And a lot of things are going to become useful. You're going to find out where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and you're going to find people that know how to do things. People are going to discover entirely new lives for themselves. When the corporate, global, whatever system falls to pieces, I think we will discover what's really important again. And it's not having a perfect green lawn. I think we'll learn to love things. Though it's like she was saying, a peace garden, right? Working with your hands, not being a corporate stooge working in an office. You may be more broke, but if you can get your hands in the dirt, you can grow some of your own food, and you work with your family, and the family has to join together and work on projects together. You may have the best time of your life and you didn't even know it. I think things are going to be really tough, and I'm preparing for that. I mean, I'm generally pretty positive because I know that the good guys win in the end. But I do think that we will go through tough times because I think we have a very complicated, unsustainable, messed up system. Different people have taken shots at different parts of it over the years. Somebody's like, you know, these GMOs, man, this is a terrible idea. You can't save seed from them and get it to produce true to type. It's terrible. I don't like this. Other people are like, you know, it's terrible that we're involved in these foreign wars. Why are we involved in all these wars? You know, I was anti-war under both Republican and Democratic presidents. If you were to try to peg me politically, you wouldn't be able to do it. I would be in the camp of just leave us alone to garden as much as possible. But people have tried to shoot little pieces of it. We've recognized that there's all kinds of problems. There's problems all over the place that we don't know how to fix. And I think that you know, a lot of people have seen it coming from different areas. Some people, like you got the Weston Price Foundation. They're looking and saying, "Look at the food supply; it's horrible. No wonder we have all these issues. Like 90% of our health problems are diet. We have a terrible diet. Everybody should be drinking raw milk, eating grass-fed beef. They should be soaking their grains. They should be live fermenting. They should not be eating anything that has glyphosate or chemical fertilizers or whatever." You know, and it's got this like, wow, all of this stuff over here. This definitely all needs to be fixed, right? And then you got somebody like Ron Paul, for example. Ron Paul is pointing out the problems of the economic system. You can't infinitely spend forever and ever. The Federal Reserve System is an unsustainable system, and it's a hijacking of the American people. Inflation is stealing your wealth year after year after year, right? There's all this stuff. So he's pointing it out over here, and people are like, "Ah, guy's crazy." Those Weston Price people, those are crazy, right? Somebody else is doing a peace protest and saying, why don't we end this war? What do you, those people are crazy. But a lot of this stuff is going to break. A lot of this stuff is going to break. Things that are unsustainable do not continue. Eventually it breaks. So I'm not super worried because, like I said, I know who wins in the end. But it is a weird time. And I do love weeds. I love, you know, one thing we learned through the pandemic, we were on our land, they locked down the grocery stores and everything, and then suddenly it was mostly just us and our neighbors. This guy started driving up and down the road selling meat out of the back of his truck because there were all these restrictions. And he found a way to drive over the side of the mountain and do meat deliveries. And he wasn't charging any more than they had been in town. So we bought like 20 or 30 pounds of meat, you know, from this guy out of the back of his truck. It's all fresh stuff, good meat. Somebody else came over and sold us a bunch of bananas. Somebody else brought us some food. My pastor came by and delivered some rum. And you realize, wow, I got an ally over here and an ally over here, and there's, you know, it's not that bad. The weeds may seem like a horrible problem. They may seem unconquerable, but sometimes through it you can find something worthwhile. Oh, it's getting a little too philosophical, but anyhow, I called myself the survival gardener for a reason. I've always kind of had it in the back of my head that things were going to get difficult, but I didn't expect a pandemic. I didn't expect all this weird stuff. And it is what it is. So all of us together, we get to go through this thing. And we get to see how it goes. And Lord willing, it's not that bad. I'm gonna drop the link to Winning the War on Weeds here in the comments. I'm sorry, this is a little deeper than I probably normally get. I have probably been considering this a little too much lately. I know how you feel. Was it Take Back America? You know, the news is so scary. Trump 1 says, I feel better than ever on the carnivore diet, drinking only water and coffee. I did a carnivore diet for 40 days. It was interesting. Lou, thank you very much. I see the super chat. Yo, Dave, you look tired. Here's some coin. Well, you woke me up. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very, very generous of you, Lou. It's good to see you around, man. What's up with Goji Berry? Enjoy Being says, some say it's so bad for you it's pointless to grow it. I don't know. I kind of like what it tastes like. But I mean, maybe it isn't good for you. It is in the Solanaceae family, the nightshade family, and some things in there are inflammatory, but other people say they're great. Yes, Karen, I can see you. How are you? Would your wife consider making a cookbook from the stuff we're growing? I still can't find a good recipe for okra. My wife fries okra in coconut oil or in bacon grease on the stove until it blackens up a little bit around the edges. She likes it that way. She's also cooked it in tomato sauce. She also pickled some, but it's incredibly mucilaginous that way. She also has put it on trays and just roasted it in the oven. I have grilled it too. It's pretty good, but I don't mind the texture of it. Now, Southerners they'll make a batter. You beat some eggs up, put in some garlic powder, salt, pepper, and into the eggs, just beat it, right? Or maybe you put it in the cornmeal. And then you get like some cornmeal, and you dip it in the eggs, and then you put it in the cornmeal, and you just throw them into a pan of hot oil and fry them. That's a really good way to do it. But I like okra. I even like it raw. SPQR Cincinnatus sends a super chat and says, David, what are the top 3 must-have gardening tools you recommend? Also, still going through Florida Survival Gardening book, and it's great. Well, thank you. Man, a good garden hoe, a traditional garden hoe, is a must-have for simplicity's sake. So a regular garden hoe, preferably an antique one with better. If you can get an old hoe head off of eBay where the entire thing is made out of one piece, those are great. And you need a shovel. And you need a rake. After that, I would get a fork and a machete. A machete can double as a trowel. It also is good for chopping up compost. It's good. You can go along the ground with a machete and weed with it. I do that regularly. I learned that you can use a machete for pretty much everything when I was out in the Caribbean. And thank you very much for reading my book, Florida Survival Gardening. I appreciate it. I was very happy with that book. It is now back. It's in the new edition is published with Good Books Publishing, so and it's slightly less expensive than the previous edition. There's no changes except that it now says Good Books on it. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I eat the okra raw all the time. Pickled? Yeah, it's great pickled. So she made traditional pickles, right? She just submerged them in brine with some garlic cloves, salt water, pour it over the okra. She cut the okra in half too because she thought that would make them less slimy. It's totally slimy, but it's very nice and sour. It tastes like dill. I eat it. I've been eating it for breakfast. I've tried to get Rachel to make a cookbook. She's too busy. I've tried. Let's see here. Crunchy baked okra chips and a cold beer. Yeah, that sounds good. Take America Back says, I went plant crazy months ago. Planted and bought so much stuff it's almost madness now to maintain. Still trying to get a lot of stuff in the ground. I understand. Thank you, Charlie. I wonder if I got too out of control in this stream and if I should hide it so we don't come under some crazy attack. I don't know. It seems like if you're a little bit of a individualist free thinker these days, you're gonna get banned from the YouTube, but whatever. So far so good. I am a member in good standing. We shall see. Karen says hubby made raised garden beds today. Wow, that's nice of him. Good work. Yeah, a sharp machete is a dangerous thing. Ann says, Chihuahua, Mexico, most of my edibles are weeds. Standard vegetables are too hard to grow. Yeah, you grow it. There's all kinds of food out there. Darren says, when's the best time to start planting dormant trees in the south? I usually plant bare root trees in February, but you can plant them all through the winter. It's fine. Dan says, thanks to you, I now have 4 baby avocado trees and a 5th one on the way. Good work. You're going to have lots of avocados. You could get like, you could have like a hipster retreat there, you know? Hey, Suze. Nice to see you. Yeah, always afraid. One of these days, man. One of these days. Yeah, you want to see the scar from my... Yeah, I'll show you my machete scar. This video may contain terrifying content. Let's see if you can see it. Right there, across the entire back of my hand, and I have a permanent lump there. See that bump? It goes all the way across the back here. They had to stitch the tendon back together. I cut through both tendons. I think through 2 tendons. There it is. That took some time to heal. I was very afraid I wasn't going to play guitar again. We prayed about that. But I can play guitar again, so it's great. Whew. Sandra says, what pretty thing can I plant around my mailbox that might stop the post from rotting by sucking moisture away? I would probably plant a bunch of tar there. Simmons Buddy says, how do you make your Jamaican sorrel cranberry sauce? Look on my website, thesurvivalgardener.com. Look for a recipe. Cranberry. Just look up cranberry, you'll find it. Green Christendom says, would a guanabana work in a sheltered position in Orlando, or do I need to keep it in a big pot? I'd probably put it in a big pot. They're very frost sensitive. I didn't actually swing the machete at my hand. I swung it at a coconut. Here's the problem. The machete had a hook on the back of it. It was a cane machete, so it has a hook. I was wearing a wide brim hat. I brought the machete down. It caught the edge of my hat, and it directed the machete blade downwards towards my hand instead of towards the coconut. I've been using a machete since I was a kid. I inherited one from my dad. And I used a machete since the time I was young, like 10. And it was just one of those accidents. It was really a bad deal. So that's what happened. How did it feel? It surprised the living daylights out of me, especially when I saw this huge gap in the back of my hand and went, oh my gosh. and I saw my tendons disappearing into the gap. I watched them curl back up in to my hand. Woo, that was a bad feeling, man. There was a lot of blood. Gersh says, feeling nervous about the news? Kill your television set. I promise you will feel a lot better in 3 or 4 days. No news is very good news. The news today is like McDonald's, not good for you. I agree. I still read it too much, but definitely. It kind of freaked me out because I looked and I was like, I couldn't move my finger, and I just looked at it and I'm like, move, move, move. And I just thought about it moving and it wouldn't move. It just sat there like that. It's dead. It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. Sorry for everybody did start telling gory stories. I have a lot of medical people in my family. Nurses, lots of nurses, paramedic. My brother's a firefighter, paramedic. Sister is a nurse, aunt is a nurse, mom is a nurse, grandmother was a nurse. Yeah. And they'll make you go crazy. They'll tell you terrible, terrible stories, so you kind of have to get over it before you pass out. Welcome, Fire Dancer Bear. Baby Maximus. Awesome. Enjoy Being says, one of my axes is very good, but only has a 2-foot handle, which makes it dangerous. Oh, yes. Man, don't ever go to Stephen Edholm's blog where he's talking about axe safety. He's got some pictures on there that will curdle your blood. Oh, it's horrible. Celebrity Not Licensed says, true story. I went to thin my banana stands a month ago with my machete, but stopped when D the G came to mind and opted to swap it out for new pruning shears. Oh, I love pruning bananas with machetes. That's right, Carla. That's the way to do it. That is an amazing woman. Chop down the banana trees with a machete. It's great. Yeah, put the wagon under. I loved watching Rachel cut through the banana trees with a machete. Good work. Lisa says, hello everyone. I've decided to save my dessert for later. Hope it wasn't because of the story. Travis says, I'm growing tobacco for the first time. Guidance about air curing the leaves would be super. Maybe a video at some point. Depending on your climate, if you have some humidity, like we have in the south, I harvested my tobacco leaves and strung fishing line through them. I put a needle with some fishing line and I just stuck it through the stems and I hung them up into the top of my barn. And I just let them sit there for a year. In the Caribbean, I hung them in a window where the breeze, the warm, humid breeze blew through them, but they were out of direct sun. Hung them over the top of a window, and about 6 months later they were ready to smoke. The flavor got way better. Oh gosh, Nancy. The guy driving him to the hospital almost passed out. Sorry, Enjoy Being. Hobby Woodworker says, mental self-defense, get off social media, stop listening to the news, put down the phone, and go outside and commune with God in the garden. Yeah, that's right. No, not either of the sisters with the fake Jersey accents. I have another sister who is, she's not practicing as a nurse anymore, but she has 7 children, so she might as well be a nurse. The tobacco tends to wilt during the middle of the day in the sun. That's not a big deal. It wilts to preserve moisture, but you may want to put more water on it. No, I do not start big bulb onions from seeds. I use the small bulbs. I do have a little tobacco book. Here is a booklet, The Survival Gardener's Guide to Growing Tobacco. Karen says, I bought tobacco seeds, but I sort of don't know what to do. Just a second, let me see if I can find it. I have to get this printed in paperback. It's on the list of things to do, but I have not done it yet. Let's see if I can find it. I expect that I'll be putting this tobacco booklet, I'm probably going to combine it and the caffeine booklet and a booklet on sugar and make it into a complete book called The Good Guide to Vices. Growing sugar, caffeine, and tobacco. Which of those three, the only one I'm actually addicted to anymore is caffeine. That's the tobacco book I just dropped in there. William writes, wow, hey, 25 months. Well, that is a long time. Was looking at getting the complete works of George Washington Carver. He had so many works. Have you read any of his writings, and if so, any favorites? I have not. I have a, when I was a kid, my mom had a book, a biography of George Washington Carver, and we got the same book for our kids. And it's a really good story. He was quite a guy. He would lead Bible studies, you know, like they would pray together and then go work in the garden. Like, he seemed pretty cool. But I have not read any of his personal works, no. Have a good night. Yes, Nancy. When is it good to plant onion sets? I would plant them right now. Yes, pawpaws grow in northwest Florida. Go back to drinking milk straight from the cow. Yes, I agree. Better than manicured lawns and fake neighbors. Yes, Gainesville would make a good venue for an event. I got a lot of connections there. I'm going to be in Milton, Florida on Sunday at the Homesteader event, but I think it's, somebody said it was sold out. I don't know. I'm not really that organized. I didn't even know. I just realized this last week that it was actually on a Sunday, and I never do anything on Sundays. I always spend Sundays with the family, and then I'd already said I was going to go, and I went, oh shucks, it's on a Sunday. But it it looks like it's no problem because I can just go in the afternoon after church. But I was like, Sunday I try to, if you work for yourself and you work from home, you can easily work all the way through the week, all the time. So I try to reserve Sunday for the Lord and for the family. And so I usually don't do it. And I'm like, gosh, I'm kind of breaking my normal thing of keeping the Sunday as a Sabbath. So it was it's a little weird. And I wouldn't have done it if I'd known it was on a Sunday, but I'd already said it. So let your yes be yes. And I do look forward to it. It's just, I don't know. I've tried not to work on Sunday for a long time. You really can end up working your way into the ground 7 days a week. Officials Love Life says, I have one of those too, but not 25 months. No! Seshmu sends a super chat and says, any suggestions for someone who lives on a drained swamp? My soil is dried muck. That sounds like great soil, yeah. It really depends on your climate, though. It's hard to give you a suggestion without knowing what the climate is, but usually muck soils are excellent for gardening. I would till it up and put in some beds. Tanya, you're a local, or you're in Alabama, aren't you? It's hard to find anything right now, though there are some houses. There are some houses in Atmore that are kind of affordable. There's some houses in Bay Minette that are affordable. Stapleton's not too bad. If you get further up to the middle of the state, it gets really affordable, like Coosa County. So cheap, very nice. My cat's name is Kitty. Because the kids argued over the name so much, the cat just ended up being called Kitty. Dan says, why do I keep Sunday as a Sabbath instead of Saturday? The Catholic Church changed the day. Well, the Catholic Church was what the original church partially morphed into. The early church kept Sunday as the day when they would meet, so we use it for the day of meeting. I think that the Sabbath was fulfilled in Christ, so I keep Sunday for the traditional Christian day of worship. So that's why. I did not graft onto my finger. I put my own finger back on. Or I had a surgeon do it. Hey, Bama Gardner, good to see you. They do have some coffee trees. I've seen coffee trees down in South Florida for sale. Right, Green Christendom. That's why we worship on Sunday. Yeah, Tanya, that would be ideal. It's nice to keep. It would be nice to keep the family land going. That would be cool. Well, I think I better run. I have to go get dinner. It's kind of getting late, and dinner was still being made when I came out here, so I said, hey, I'm going to go do a live stream and say hi to everybody and get in trouble. And if you guys don't have it yet, please check out Winning the War on Weeds by my friend John Moody. That's the one that I am... We have... That's the first book that I published that's not one of my books. The next book that we are going to publish that's not one of my books is Steve Solomon's Water-Wise Gardening. I'm very much looking forward to that. This is going to be, it's a much larger, he took an original book that he had written in the 90s and he expanded it into a full book with information on gardening without irrigation and gardening with irrigation and his recommendations. It's fascinating. It will completely change the way you think about gardening, but that's not what we have right now. So right now we have Winning the War on Weeds by John Moody, and if we can make that book a success, it would be really good for John and his family, and it's good for my publishing house because it'll make me publish more. So thank you, Sander. You have a great night, everybody. God bless. I should have a video on the goats before too long. And, right, they kept the books that the apostles and their associates actually wrote and rejected the novel and late works of the Gnostics. There's no problem. I hold the Council of Nicaea. I think they did the right thing. So, anyhow, have a great night. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green.